Peace and welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. Folks, we got a great show for you. So much to talk about. First, we're going to talk about the March for Black Lives, for Our Lives that happened all over the country this weekend. We'll check in with DC gun violence survivor, Rucon Brown, to talk to us about this latest effort. Also, 3:30, let's check in with Karen Marie to discuss how do you celebrate Juneteenth with pride. We'll have that conversation. At the 4 o'clock hour, folks, we're going to be checking in with Mayor Chokwe Lumumba, who serves as the mayor of Jackson, Mississippi, to talk about how Jackson is dealing with the gun violence there. And then later, the January 6th hearings happen. We're going to give you a sneak peek for those of you who may have not had the opportunity to watch it this morning, but trust and believe, we're debunking the myth of the big lie. Stay with us. It's all happening on today's edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Let's go. All right, folks, welcome to the show. I hope that you had a great weekend. I had a fantastic weekend. We got so much to talk about, man, a lot of big conversations that we're going to have today. And so I'm very, very excited about what we're going to discuss, the voices that we're bringing to you, just some exciting stuff. First and foremost, let's jump right into it. First and foremost, the March for Our Lives. This is the effort that was brought together and organized by students from around the country, particularly after the mass shooting at Parkland just a couple of years ago, where students said enough is enough. And as a result of what we've seen at a number of schools across the country, the discussion about Uvalde, the discussion about gun control is brought to legislators from the mouths of babes, as they say, students, young people who are leading the effort to say enough is enough. And across this country this past weekend, folks, thousands gathered together in places like DC, New York, Los Angeles, and all across the country. And today we are just really, really excited to have one of the organizers for the March for Our Lives rally that happened in DC this past weekend. He's 20 years old. He is a gun violence survivor, and he is an activist and organizer, Rucon Brown. He's going to be joining us in a moment. Also joining us, of course, on Mondays, our culture crew. We're going to be joined by Mr. Jules P. himself and our sister B. Fly. So we want you to be a part of this conversation. No conversation is complete without you. Make sure y'all tune in. Make sure y'all let your friends and family know. And most importantly, post your comments on our Instagram or on our Facebook and YouTube page, and let's hear what you have to say as we incorporate your thoughts into the discussion. So without further ado, we want to welcome Rucon Brown, who is an activist and he is a survivor of gun violence, and he hails from DC. Rucon, thank you so much, brother, for joining us. How are you this afternoon?
Yeah, hey, man, thank you for having me. I'm awesome. I'm excited to be here, excited to talk with you and with my people. Thank you.
Absolutely, brother. Absolutely. In a moment, we're going to bring my man Jules P. and B. Fly into this. But first and foremost, Rucon, let's look at this larger issue of gun violence. For those who may not be familiar with the work of the March for Our Lives, this comes out of a space of pain and working towards a space of power. Give us some more insight behind that, bro.
Yeah, I mean, one of my classmates at Harvard, his name is David. He's one of the co-founders of March for Our Lives, and they started it back in 2018, almost out of necessity. I think that's what happens with a lot of these movements is sometimes we don't even choose to start these movements. They happen because they have to. David and his classmates started this up, and they've been able to use it to not only get some laws and legislation passed in favor of not pro or anti-gun, but just gun safety, which is just the absence of gun violence in our country. But they've also been able to foster up some conversation and support some conversation about what's actually necessary to support people in this fight against gun violence.
And I I'm, as a youth organizer, I've done youth work, youth development work. I've done community organizing and activism work in the city of Baltimore and around different parts of the country. But this right here, to see young people, to see students, to see the next generation really taking the lead on this, I'm really surprised that legislators and policymakers and other folks aren't taking you guys seriously, because just in DC, I mean, you guys were able to assemble thousands of people to come out. Talk to us a little about that.
Well, I think there's a few things going on there. One, a lot of young people care about this issue, but a lot of old people do too, because my grandmother cares about this because her grandbabies are in school. Her grandbabies are living in the streets where these people's lives, our lives, are being taken, right? But on an additional level, I think that politicians are taking us serious. They're taking us as serious as they know how to. I think that America doesn't currently have the infrastructure to support people being taken care of. People are not taken care of accurately and adequately in this country. It's not going to happen tomorrow or the next day. And I think that what my conversation about love is to sort of regurgitate the current system, is to uproot the current system and the current structure of this country, so that politicians are even in a place to actually support students. Politicians have so much to lose when they listen to students that they're not willing to lose right now. And I don't know that that's entirely their fault. I think that's the fault of the founding fathers of this country. And that's the fault of the people who support that current infrastructure, where if politicians agree with students, then they don't get paid anymore, right? And so we have to the country owes it to us, the country, not me, not young people, but the country owes it to us to redo that fabric so that money is not God anymore and that love is God.
Woo, brother. My man, I'm feeling that right there. One of the things that, and you're talking about making people listen, David Hogg, who serves as one of the other co-founders of March of Our Lives. Keenan, let's post what Mr. Hogg had to say on this. This is one of the former students of Parkland. He posted, he said at this weekend's past rally, if our government can't do anything to stop 19 kids from being killed and slaughtered in their own school and decapitated, it's time to change who is in government. Ruquan. That's it, bro. That's it. And you got the, March for Our Lives got the numbers. Y'all creating the infrastructure as this thing continues to evolve. Talk to us a little bit about the efforts that you're personally involved in to get people to sign on to this idea of having either responsible gun control or to alleviate gun violence altogether.
Well, I think responsible gun control and alleviating gun violence, that's the same exact thing. I think that it's American to divide things up and it be red or blue or pro or anti. But the reality is that we need to be less American and insert love into our internal infrastructure, insert love into our own personal software. If you think of us as computers, I think that we need to download love, right? Because right now, the language, the computer science that we're speaking is only causing more and more violence. And violence is an American concept. And it's not that it's only American, but it is a part of America. It's something that we're all too used to. It's something that we've accepted too much, right? Even emotional violence. Emotional violence is an American norm. Black children are abused by our parents day in and day out, and it's looked at as normal. That violence to me is not any different than the gun violence that happens. So I'm not here to take people's guns or give them more guns. That's not my personal choice, because I'm nobody's president or king. I am a king of myself, and I'm choosing to love people, because with that, all of our people will be taken care of. And so I created my own company called Love One, which is about putting love first, because I recognize that politicians have a really hard job, man. It's nearly impossible for politicians to love, but mostly politicians can't love because they don't make that choice in their personal lives before they ever get to work.
So you saying, bro, that in order for you even to be a public servant, then you have to go through this process. You have to go through a self-evaluation process. You got to see where your heart really is before you even get into this work, and then constant reevaluation, because we know that the work of public service can change people. Is that what I'm hearing correctly, bro?
I think you're saying it precisely, man. We accept any and everybody in politics, right? Like, if you have the right degree, you can be a politician. And I think that's disgusting, because we've had the same types of politicians for hundreds of years at this point, and our country has not progressed in anything other than finance.
Mm.
And I think that's disgusting because our people are getting are becoming more and more broken. Our communities are getting more and more unsafe. The wealth gap is increasing more and more. The knowledge gap is increasing more and more. There's literally been a whole another realm of academia and wealth of knowledge that has been created in the multiverse and Web3 and crypto that Black people have no, like 1% of us have any understanding about. And even in that 1%, it's a very small understanding of the wealth of that knowledge. And so I'm just saying that to say that this conversation for me is not one of just gun violence. I think that my stepfather was murdered in Tulsa, Oklahoma in 1921. A mob of white people murdered, slaughtered, and destroyed those Black people in that community. And those are my ancestors. The damage that was done 100 years ago is why my stepfather was murdered. My stepfather wasn't murdered because there were guns or because there weren't. My stepfather was murdered because there's a city and a nation of broken people, broken legislators, and broken constituents. And this country has a responsibility to heal the people that it's broken. But this country has to also make that easy for people. And that's what I'm here to talk about. That's it. Like, if you and I love ourselves, our communities will reap the benefits of that. Not only will we personally, but so will our communities. I think that's what's most important.
How is it possible for us to have is it possible for, based upon where we are, you looking at this, and I love your analysis on this, Brother Ruquan, is it possible for love to be restored in this country at this point? Because some people have given up hope, and I'm an optimist, you know. I'm not one of these people that say, oh, I'm a realist, it will never happen. I'm an optimist. I believe that it can be restored. It's just going to go through, it requires a process. It requires the will and the commitment to do it. Do you see it the same way? Do you think it's possible for us to restore the love after all of this hatred has been dominating our culture and our lives?
I know it's possible. I know it's possible because I see brilliant people make the choice to love all the time. I know that there's a very steep price to pay to love because you have to be willing to give away what you think is most important. For instance, a father who decides to truly love his family oftentimes has to take off and give away what it means to be a father in America. Because in America, what it means to be a father is to usually be absent from your home because you're so busy doing work. What it means to be a father is to not have much knowledge on what's going on in the lives of your children and to leave that to your wife. What it means to be a father is to be better known by the world than by your family. But a loving father will begin to take away those false identities of fatherhood and place himself in a space where he may not be affirmed by the outside world, but he will achieve love. And I think that in our pursuit of love, see, Americans, we're so concerned with being the greatest nation. We're so concerned with being number one. That seeps through not only from government, but even down to academia. It's this concept of competition and domination that Americans live by. You can't love and dominate at the same time. I, as an American, have to be willing to give away my desire for domination in pursuit of my desire to love. And I don't think that many Americans are going to choose that today, but I do know that that's what the right answer is. And so when I speak on these platforms about this, I'm not even speaking to Americans who are alive right now and not listening. I'm speaking to my great-grandchildren who 100 years from now will be wondering, what is the answer? What is life about? And so I'm speaking to them directly saying that it's about love. And there's going to be a price you have to pay to love, but that price is all too worth it. It's more of an investment than a price.
I'm just letting that marinate for the people watching it, brother. That's all. I'm just letting it marinate. I want to bring in my culture crew. We got Mr. Jules P, and then in a moment, I think we should be reconnected with B Fly. Jules, you hearing my man Ruquan Brown checking in? What are your thoughts? What are your questions for this conversation, bro?
Brother is definitely reminding me of our journey when we first came up Farajii, when we were coming through the ranks of community activism. So he definitely reminds me a lot of us and how we moved through the community. A couple of things. For one, I want to commend you first and foremost. You talked about investment. I definitely want to invest in you because what you're speaking on the platform that you're representing and the history and knowledge that you're presenting and spewing out is beyond fascinating because, this is what we need to hear from the youth. a lot of times we want the youth to lead, but we don't hear the voices and we don't hear the knowledge and the message that we're getting from the youth all the time. So I want to commend you first personally that you were doing the right thing, you're on the right track, and I'm going to continue pushing in your success in the movement. The second thing I want to focus on, Farajii kind of took the question a little bit, but about the love. It's like, I agree with you 100% about bringing the love back. And so my question is, let's start with, lower level. So from community, from neighborhood, like bringing the love back into the community and then spreading it to the masses from city to city, then state to state, to nationwide. How do you think that will be the most effective way to get this, goal accomplished of, spreading the love to stay? Because that's what starts with. We can't just talk about just gun violence. It's literally just spreading love because we live in a world full of negativity. So how does spreading love first impact what can be done and change in this community?
I think first, I don't think of love as anything to be spread. I think of love as something to dwell in and something to do. And so I'm not so concerned with you experiencing love. I'm more concerned with me experiencing it. Because if I experience it, then you have no other choice but to experience it. And I think Americans are so conditioned, again, myself included, to worry about what you're doing on your Instagram or what grades you have or what type of car you're driving, that I haven't even decided within me what I truly want. So my pursuit in love starts with me. I recently quit playing football at Harvard because I'm not able to love me. I could have stayed on the team. I had 25 offers to play at pretty much any school I wanted to play at. I'll be in the league in 2 years and I'll be a millionaire, which has always been my dream. I'll be able to put on for the hood. But the reality is that throughout all of that, although there are other people I can help and I can spread love, I would be without love. And so the first step to community, any sort of community healing, is personal healing. Like, community is only a compilation of individuals. If you can't heal a community until you heal yourself. So I owe it to me to put myself in the spaces, to invest resources in myself, to love me. I can't think about Black people as a whole every day, because then I'll be neglecting myself. And that, therefore, is not love. So what I know is that if you and me are responsible for ourselves, love will pull us together. And then we'll be able to, us three, go and make impact on our community. But we're going to die before we can ever change the entire race. And you and I, a part of love, have to accept that as truth. You and me are not going to be the saviors of this race. Jesus Christ came to die for us, and even he could not save the world in the way that people wanted him to. We have to accept this reality that is, bro, we're not going to do everything. What I can do, what God put me here to do, is to tell you to love yourself. It's to tell you to abandon these systems, to tell you that your worth doesn't come through your 40-hour work week, and your worth does not come through dominating women. That's what I'm here to tell you and me, so that you and me can be an example for David Hall, whom I love, who's a great man, but I just mean the other white men in our society, so that we can be an example for these loveless people. And that's going to live far beyond us. But listen, y'all, we will not see the fruits of our work in our lifetime. It's not going to happen. And that's okay. So whatever work you choose to do, make sure you enjoy it, because God did not call you to live a lifeless life. So I want you to enjoy your life, do things that you enjoy, do things that are fruitful for you and for the movement 1,000 years from today.
Facts, man.
I want to bring in B Fly. B, is B with us right now? I want to bring in B Fly. Man, I'm just listening to my brother here, and I'm learning a lot. And I'm, Jules and Ruquan, when I hear certain truths being spoken, I become like a student. Just humble myself and just like let me hear what the God and what the Creator what they want, what He wants me to hear from me. Because, brother, what I'm hearing from you is a young brother of substance and understanding the deep journey. It reminds me of some of the writings that I've read of Dr. Martin Luther King. And when he gets into the understanding, getting to the essence and to the core of love and understanding, that's really where God works. Like, everything that he does comes out of a space of love. It doesn't, even his dislike for his enemies or his dislike of ways comes out of a space of love. And so, you know, when you said that the love that one has for his or herself, it will compel that. I felt that because at the end of the day, dear brother, that's how it's going to get. And I think, Brother Ruquan and Jules, I mean, if you want to talk to us about, you know, that personal journey, because you're right, Ruquan, a lot of people, we look on the outside, and I know that without a shadow of doubt, brother, that is part of the reason why we're in this place of committing acts of violence against one another, because we have often been told to look outside of ourselves instead of taking the time to cultivate the inner self. Brother Ruquan, can you can speak to that, or Jules, you can speak to that, bro.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the highest form of love is to lay your life down for your friend. And I think the highest form of lovelessness is to take your friend's life for yourself. I said the highest form of love is to lay your life down for your friends. And the highest form of lovelessness is to lay your friend's life down for yourself. All that has been happening in America is the highest form of lovelessness. And what Americans have done is replace that love for a pursuit of personal accomplishment. There's a book that says in the end times we'll be lovers of self. And I don't want you to get that word lover confused with the true definition of love. In the end times, we will be worshipers of self, and we will put ourselves as individuals above each other. We will be more concerned with being someone who has accomplished and achieved, one who has traveled and been adored, than making sure that our kids and the children of our friends can have lives full of love. Listen, the conversation that I'm having is one that you can only understand if you know the language of love. I'm speaking a language that is foreign to most Americans. And people will often ask me why my language doesn't contain the same rules as the English language. I'm not concerned with personal profit. I'm not concerned with personal achievement. And you can't be either if you want to love. And that's the bottom line. So when I address politicians and I say, you guys are broken, ignorant, and irresponsible, there's no lie or even rudeness in any of those three statements. They're all true. Because to be willing to devote yourself to years and years of academia and still be ignorant to the brokenness and the hurt of people is broken, ignorant, and irresponsible. It is true.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be subject to that level of brokenness, ignorance, and irresponsibility, because I'm going to respond to my ability and be responsible. I'm going to respond to my ability to love, and I'm going to do that. And whatever the price is, if the mayor doesn't like me, if I don't get to sit at the seat with the most famous people in the city, I don't care, because I really love myself. I really enjoy the work that I do. I really have a good time sitting in my house watching TV or jumping on these calls with you guys or reading bell hooks or rubbing my own shoulders when they hurt or spending time with my friends. Like, I love those things. So the final statement that I'll make on that particular question is, I don't find my strength and worth in anything that America says is good. If I leave college, I'm still great. If I quit football, I'm still great. If I'm a millionaire or not, I'm still great. If I have a wife or not, I'm still great. If I have friends on Facebook or not, I'm still great. If I have followers on TikTok or not, I'm still great. So now what can you buy me with? What can you manipulate my policy writing with?
There you go.
Nothing. I'm calling all politicians to take that stance, that I love me so much that I'm going to love you because I know what it's like to love.
Let me just say this, Brother Ruquan. Your words, your whole presence right now is inspiring. And I know a lot of our watchers, folks, are checking in on our YouTube page, on our Facebook page. It's inspiring, brother, especially coming from the fact that you are a young Black man with this sort of perspective on such a big issue. Because I think we often look at the tangible. We talk policy. We talk, gun control laws and all of that, measures and red flags and all of those things. But to get to the very essence of a situation, you're talking about what you're saying, which is love, and looking at where we are in this country. And I think we need to put the mirror up, brother. We need to put the mirror up to show we don't love each other as much as we say we do. We quote unquote say, oh, we're all Americans, but the love is not in the heart.
Precisely.
So it's not there. I gotta as we wrap up this conversation, and you brought on what would you invite? Is there a place that you would invite, whether it's a website or any other resource that you would offer as we have this conversation, and have people been listening to you? How can people learn more about the works that you're doing, support you in the works that you're doing? How can we get involved in the place to be in the place that you're in?
Well, I'll give you 2 or 3 steps. One is simple. Is just go to usemorelove.com. And so there you can purchase some of my products to support families and communities that are impacted by gun violence, particularly Black families and communities impacted by gun violence. But you can also learn more about love and the steps to take to have a better understanding of it. I didn't create the concept of love, so you won't be learning it from me. I will share some of my experiences, but also I've listed a book by Bell Hooks called All About Love, which changed the game for me in my mind and my heart in my pursuit of love. So I encourage that. But then in addition to that, you can go to my personal website, ruquanbrown.com, where you can bring me to your school or to your workplace to speak to your students or to you and your staff about how to make love a centerpiece for whatever work you're doing. That's why I am who I am, because love has been a constant presence in my life. And when love was absent, my life went in the wrong direction. And a lot of our lives are not where we want them to be. We don't have positive self-esteem, etc. So you can do that. And then you can also just look me up on YouTube, and I talk about things like this all the time.
That's what it is. Ruquan Brown, 20 years old, DC native, doing phenomenal work of restoring love first within himself, and then of course teaching others how to do it within themselves as well. Hey, Keenan, let's go to ruquanbrown.com. I'm up on the page right now, brother, very quickly. And such a beautiful website, just a beautiful expression, just a great platform as we have this conversation about love. Ruquan Brown, that's RUQUAN Brown.com, to get more information about Brother Ruquan, the works that he's doing, and most importantly, the love journey. And he's doing, there it is right there, Ruquan. Check that out, brother. Got you right up there. Are you the truth? I love that. I love it, bro. I absolutely love it. Look, we're going to have to jump off, but Ruquan, let me just say this, brother. You always have a home here on The Culture, here on the Black Star Network. We would love to bring you back to continue to have these conversations. So please do not hesitate to hit us up. Let us know whatever next moves you were making. Continue to update us on the work that you're doing with the March for Our Lives. And most importantly, how we can add to the movement of love that you are embarking upon, brother. So thank you so much for your time, Ruquan. Thank you. We truly appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. Bless it.
Thank you, brother. Blessings.
Yeah.
Folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come right back, let's check in with Karen Marie as we talk about how to celebrate Juneteenth and Pride together. Stay tuned for that conversation. We got that and a whole lot more in the second 30 of The Culture here on the Black Star Network. We'll be right back.
Verizon just gave us all a brand new iPhone 13.
We've been customers for years.
We got iPhone 13s too. Switched 2 minutes ago, literally right before this.
iPhone 13 on us on any unlimited plan for every customer, with plans starting at just $35. All on the network more people rely on.
Love our new Alexa.
It's a Buick.
Yeah, Alexa.
Buick.
Alexa.
It's a Buick.
It's an Alexa. It's a Buick. It's an Alexa. Coach, that's a Buick. That's an Alexa.
The Buick Enclave with available Alexa built-in.
Pull up a chair. Take your seat. The Black Tape. With me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Hey, baby. Folks, welcome back. Man, oh man, kicking off the show on a very strong start, and we want to continue the conversations here. I'm just very, very happy about our last guest, Ruquan Brown. Man, such a powerful young brother, and I'm so happy we were able to get him on to share with you his message. So much to look forward to. All right, now I'm going to keep the hits coming, folks. What we have now, as we have that conversation, we got to have, and if Ruquan said that we create or we commit emotional violence each and every day, especially within the Black community, which is why, per my man Jules P, culture crew member, let's bring Jules and let's bring B-Fly into this discussion. As we've been talking about this situation of how to celebrate something very important. We have Juneteenth that is happening now this month, and we have Pride. And I think that what we had from the previous conversation talking about love serves as a strong foundation for this next discussion. And I wanted to bring in a sister who I was very, very impressed to connect with because she wrote a piece about this very issue last year. She re-released it this year, and I'm so happy that we were able to bring her on to talk about why and how do you celebrate Juneteenth, which is supposed to be, quote unquote, the very, very end part of slavery, and letting our people know that, to celebrating where we also are in the struggle for the LGBTQIA community. So I want to welcome to the Black Star Network, Karen Marie. Karen, thank you so much for checking in. It's good to have you. How are you, sis?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely, Karen. I listening to Ruquan set this conversation up really, really well, because it allows us to start to look at the humanity of all parties involved. And I have to say, my guy Jules P, one of our culture crew members, he said, Farajii, I want us to have a conversation about Juneteenth and Pride. And then B-Fly was like, oh, we gotta have it. We got to have the conversation. How do you celebrate those things in a way that understands the complexities of Blackness while also understanding the level of the evolving struggle of history as well as changing identities in that conversation. So you wrote a piece about this. Talk to us a little bit about your work, Karen.
Absolutely. I wrote a piece about this for the Buckeye Flame, which is Ohio's only online LGBTQ plus digital publication. I'm also the president of the board there. And the conversation was happening Juneteenth, corporations were corporating and they were, making that decision to have that be another holiday, like a federal holiday. And a lot of that happened in Pride Month, so that's Pride Month, and corporate structures will capitalize as much as possible on the LGBTQ community, especially during June. I used to work for a youth center that supported and served youth that were LGBTQ plus, and we had all these conversations with all this nuance in there. And so I was like, we need to understand how those history intertwines and how all of that is connected. The theory of oneness talks about, all of us being connected. And I don't know if we all have the history that we should around that. There have always been Black queer people. There have always been, Black folks struggling. But when you're in survival mode and when you're trying to literally escape enslavement, the conversation is not really about sexuality, right? We're not having conversations about gender and sexuality. We're having conversations about staying alive and attaining freedom. Mm-hmm. And what structures create that. And Marsha P. Johnson was a Black transgender woman who started a riot around police brutality. And that is where Pride started, at Stonewall. And that was where Pride started. And I don't think a lot of people put those connections there. If Juneteenth doesn't happen, we're not free. And if we're not free, then Marsha P. Johnson doesn't start the conversation around the inequities that are happening with Black transgender women. I mean, violence is one of the things that Black transgender women experience at an extremely high rate. At this point, I think in 2022, there are 49. I may be wrong about that, so don't quote me, but 44 to 49 Black transgender women have been killed in this year alone. And so when you look at those stats and any marginalized or historically marginalized group, you're going to have Black folks that are even more marginalized. Kimberly Crenshaw talked about intersectionality in 1989, coined that term around being Black and being a woman, because a woman was being discriminated, And so when we look at those type of things and how that has cumulative impact and how that stands in our community, it's a very important conversation to have. So I wanted to provide some facts. And then also I never want to just leave facts and then leave people up to their own devices. I try to give some suggestions about how that can look if you're not Black or if you're not LGBTQ plus, and then support and celebrate and center those folks that have all those intersections.
So Karen, and then I'm gonna pass it to our sister B Fly, co-founder of Blackwater Production House, and she's an amazing artist. But Karen, to your point, and I want to make sure that we drive this point home. Marsha P. Johnson, activist, self-identified drag queen, performer, survivor. This was the person that started the Stonewall riot to the point now where we're talking about celebrating Pride. There would be no Pride if it wasn't for this Black transgender woman.
Absolutely. And with Sylvia Rivera, who was a Latina transgender woman, they both started this together. And originally they started a house, services for young people who were, at the time it was transvestite. So STAR was for transvestite. The T was for transvestite. But now, obviously, language has evolved. So that was transgender. And so, yes, she started it.
B Fly, when you hear this, and I know you're taking it all in, B, because you quiet as a church mouse right now. You're taking it all in. What's your question? What's the spirit telling you? What's the energy you getting right now?
I'm feeling like there needs to be a further conversation on what it means to be a Black family. And this is a real, and I think couching it in Afrofuturism allows us to look beyond, like, into the future and kind of bring in elements of the past. And I believe within the heteronormative Black community, right, there is this opportunity for a broadening of our conversation around what does it really mean to be cousins, you know? And so when we think about cousins and Blackness and Juneteenth and freedom, you know, we have an opportunity to actually push forward the idea, like, unless we are sexually free, we aren't free. And that's where we need to be able to bridge this other conversation, you know, that is real and is necessary, you know. And over the past, I want to say at least decade, you know, there has been real work in pushing the minds of our elders, in pushing the minds of the traditional Black family, the traditional Black church, in order to open up, you know, what it means to be a contemporary Negro. And the contemporary Negro needs to be sexually free. You know, like, this is real. You know, we can't say our other beloved N-word, you know, but at the end of the day, you know, the Negro is not a monolith. And we need to be able to express this in a multitude of ways together, you know. So I appreciate the link between Pride Month and Juneteenth, you know what I'm saying, in a different way than having Black History Month also shared with all of the presidents. You feel me? You know what I'm saying? So it does feel one, you know, and it feels loving, you know, in a more broad sense of love that Ruquan is trying to let the world know, you know, past the emotions, but into the emotional responsibility, you know. And so I'm grateful to be a part of this conversation, you know, with another woman thought leader, you know, and that's what's up, you know. So tell me, is there anything that we can help do within that conversation? Because there's this gray invisible line, you know, within the Black hetero community, you know, and the LGBTQ plus community. Like, how do we actually have a conversation that allows our 80-year-olds to also be in on it, in with it, and to understand how the traditional idea of the Black family is holding back other Black people and ourselves, you know?
Great question.
Fantastic.
Aaron, what's your take on that?
That's an unbelievable question. And so going back to what Raquan was saying, it really starts internally, right? So there are a couple of structures that you mentioned that I want to talk about. So when you're looking at religion, on the other side of love, I don't believe is hate. On the other side of love, I actually believe is fear in terms of how we move. And so when you look at religion, and I was a preacher's kid growing up, you know, when we look at how we view religion, is it fear-based? Is it shame-based? Is it guilt-based? You know, I watched the Left Behind series. I was afraid to die, to go to hell. And I thought that when I was with a woman, because I identify as pansexual, which means that I ascribe to gender. Like, I don't ascribe to gender. I mean, it means I'm attracted to people. And so when you look at something like that and think about God as energy or spirit, all these things that we like to talk about, for me growing up, it was really challenging hearing like hateful rhetoric, shameful rhetoric, guilt-ridden rhetoric around my gender, around my role and how that looked. And then also what my purpose was, how I was to serve and supposed to find a man and find a husband. And that was like my sole purpose. And I believed that there was something more possible. And to me, that actually comes from a space of love. And when you're looking at fear, if I am like, oh, I'm not in this role, I'm not in this box, or I'm going to go to hell. You know, I truly believe when we look at the Bible as it is published now, you know, that is an iteration that was meant to keep us enslaved. that was the slave owners' Christianity. And I think God is much bigger than we can always understand. And so when you look at religion, it really is a construct, right? So in terms of faith, spirituality, and all of that, it's a construct. And it tells people, these are your rules. This is what you're supposed to do. If you don't do these things, then you're going to go to this scary, fiery place and lake of fire. And when I think about that in terms of how I identify in all kinds of different diversity dimensions around class, around race, around gender, around sexual orientation or sexuality, there's a freedom that gets to happen there too. And so there's a lot of work that I had to do to unpack all of those structures and belief systems that I had that told me that I was supposed to be a certain way. And when people do that unpacking, I think fear actually makes us not explore because we're scared of what we might discover. And the truth is, there are so many people that anybody that I know that is secure in their sexuality and secure in their gender is not afraid to explore because they're like, actually, I subscribe to gender roles. And actually, I like being a man. I like being a woman. And there's no question about it. But that doesn't mean that I can't explore or learn or understand something different outside of what I know or was taught to know. That's actual liberation in terms of education. That's what we talk about in terms of education. That's liberation, is to be able to see all these religions, to see all these ideologies, and to be able to look at them and say, you know what, I kind of align here and I mostly align here, and I'm going to live out in a certain way accordingly. And so to me, there's the religion piece. And then as far as the community and the Black family, a lot of our Black family constructs are based off of religion. And when you deconstruct religion first, and that doesn't mean don't be religious. That just means like understand why these rules were created. Why couldn't I have a skirt that was above my knee? You know what I'm saying? Like, does God really care about that on the last days in evil times about where my skirt is? And so when I'm thinking about that, once I do that, then looking at the Black family, like family can be who cares for you. What are our socialized beliefs around love, around relationship, around nurturing and caretaking? Why are those roles specifically only given to women generally? And when you look at those types of things, then you can start to say, okay, well, here's maybe where some things I don't really align with, and then move accordingly. But if you're moving in fear, then you are always going to be stifled, and you're going to be guarded, and you're working, and you're guarded. And when you're guarded, not even the good can get in. So we can't even get to talking about celebration until we can unpack and move in love. And that does leave you vulnerable. I'm not saying that it doesn't. What I'm saying is that, to me, the cost of living in fear, the cost of being guarded and not letting anything in is too much.
Hey, you know what, Karen? And I want to just pull up this quick excerpt from your piece that you wrote last year that you re-released this year. Keenan, let's post this quote on the board, please, brother. This came out of your piece. You said Americans are still just learning oral history and tradition passed down from actual enslaved Americans. Enslaved people were not encouraged to read or write, which makes curating history much more complicated. This is why we are just beginning to hear the stories of people whose ancestors were enslaved. Many movies, documentaries, and series attempt to capture the history and stories of pre-Civil War America. You also said our work is to continue learning, acknowledging the truth about our past as a country, and working to remove disparities and barriers in terms of access for African Americans and Black people in this country. The acknowledgement and celebration of Juneteenth is just the beginning. So I think, to your point, you know, we have to get past the barriers. First, we got to recognize that we have been imprisoned, so to speak, right? For lack of a better word, we've been imprisoned. But we got to get past this fear. And I love how you just said it. Like, you know, no, that may not be how you love. You know what I mean? Like, if you are a heterosexual man or heterosexual woman, you know, you subscribe to certain, you know, I'm gonna have a wife and I'm gonna have a husband and all of those things. That's fine. But there still has to be an understanding, like, you're not the only person in the world who thinks like that. And you're saying letting the good in, be willing to listen, to find, and this is the point that I take, Karen, to find the humanity. Like, you know, you're still a Black woman at the end of the day. So if I'm talking about liberation for Black people, I can't be like, well, I'm talking about liberation for heterosexual men and women, not liberation. I mean, that's just getting silly. You know what I mean? And it's counterproductive to where we're trying to go. Jules, I want to give you a quick opportunity because it was because of you, Jules, that we're having this conversation. What's your take so far, bro?
So one, I want to thank you, Karen, for your insight and your education, again, knowledge passing on to us, because here's where my conversation sparked. I'm always taking the fact I love being not the smartest person in the room, because that gives me opportunity to listen and learn from so many around me. So here's the way I tied the correlation. I was looking at, from the outside looking in at the LGBTQT plus community, and I was like, okay, it's one thing to be a part of that community. It's also one thing to be a part of that community and also be Black. There's two different sides also, in the same way that you're dealing with regular America. It's always two different fronts. The way that it's marketed, the way that it's branded, the way that it's sold is different for the way it is for inclusion of the community versus the way it's of the inclusion of the community of being African American as well in the community. So here's where my interest has sparked. I was looking at, Pride Month and then Juneteenth as well. And then it's like now taking, and we're talking how, I guess the theme of the show would just say is from Brother Raquan talking about love. I always lead with love. So all my questions come from that basis. So how do you take something that was marketed for love? So, but I'm not even gonna say marketed, but I'm saying used for love. So being a part of that community and also being from Juneteenth from 1865 to now, celebrating that, mark of Juneteenth, the love of community, the love of thyself. How was that now being taken from us? And now it's no longer about love. It's not about marketing dollars. So now I learned a term this weekend called rainbow washing. So you have a term called rainbow washing, which is these corporations and companies are now just throwing pride rainbows behind their logos and don't even support the movement, don't give a damn about the movement, don't pour into the community, don't show any type of support or love to the community. And then the same thing now is just trying to be taken with Juneteenth, when Walmart tried to attempt to bring out products for Juneteenth. You're taking celebrations now of our freedoms and our choices of love and trying to market dollars off of them, which I don't like that part of it. I feel like being a part of these communities and coming from these aspects of freedom that we're coming from as part of Juneteenth is celebrations within. It's with eternal. It's with the love with communities that were also shared in together. It shouldn't be something that's marketed and taken away from us now as a national holiday, or now as something that should be broadcasted and put on all these shows and TV networks and all these corporations and companies trying to join in on it and not support us. That's the difference. Y'all using that for y'all bases for saying things, but they're not supporting us. And that's where I get that's where I have my feeling for bringing up this conversation, because that's not fair to your community, our community, Juneteenth as a whole, or being in those communities and without love and these corporations as a whole together.
Yeah. Jules, thank you so much. Karen, what's your take?
I mean, thinking about what you just said, when we look at capitalism, when we look at corporatizing everything, and greed and money, Raquan talked about that, greed and money, if that's your fuel, if that's your come from, there's rarely curiosity. And so in this conversation, you can already tell there's curiosity here. There's a conversation, there's a willingness there. If we don't have that willingness to have a conversation, then it's pretty much a wash. But when you look at the capitalism piece, what I can tell you right now, based on Walmart and a lot of the memes you'll see, well, they didn't ask anybody. And that's the truth. They're not asking and centering, which we talk about centering Black folks a lot. The world, the nation, especially this nation, is always going to be more anti-Black than they are anti-LGBTQ. I do a lot of diversity trainings, and people are so happy to talk about pronouns, ask all these questions, and there's a genuine air of curiosity in the room. But let us start talking about inequities in the system around Black folks and access to power. It is still right now in this country, 4% of senior leadership, and that's not middle management. Senior leadership in corporations is 4% Black women, regardless of sexuality. So when you look at that and you don't have people standing in the center giving suggestions, or there's a tokenized person that may be also centering white supremacy or white supremacy delusion, when you look at that, I can't have the right type of celebration, because I'm centering what I think people want instead of asking people what they want. And there's going to be a myriad of things that people want to have celebrated, how they want to celebrate. for me, I'm going to be like, all right, well, I want these things. I want quiet. I want rest. I want time away. I want, access to travel and do those type of things. But for some people, they may be like, I do want a celebration. For me, I would say I would want people to have access to the history, to the awareness, and not be writing laws about banning certain books or conversations that accurately depict and storytell our history. I would rather that. And then stop there. Maybe you could stop there and leave the rest for us in terms of celebration. There's so much that is not centered on Black folks in this nation. When I go out and I encounter police, no one's saying, oh, are you gay, before they are brutal to me. You know what I mean? Right. So like when I think about that, I really have to step in and say, okay, are you centering the requests of Black folks? Are you centering the requests of LGBTQ plus folks? Do you have any Black LGBTQ plus representation? Because at the end of the day, if I'm in the closet as a white gay person, then I'm not experiencing any of those disparities.
And Karen, that's why, and we gotta have to stop it here, but that's why we need to have a discussion, right? Because at the end of the day, there's so many complexities. And look, I'm learning, and I think a lot of other folks learn, you can't run away from reality. You can't run away from it. B and I talk about this. I mean, people act like we could wish upon a star that certain things didn't change. We can say, oh no, this is not what it is. No, you can't run away from reality. You have to deal with the issue right then and there. So I'm just very excited about the fact that we can at least have a conversation, and we'll continue to have more conversations, because there needs to be a repair to the Black family. There's damage to the Black family. There's no love. The love is being lost in the Black family. And at this point, if we don't work to try to bring us together, regardless to our preferences, regardless to our religion, and all of these barriers, we're going to find ourselves at a huge loss, because the system of white supremacy benefits off of that. Capitalism feeds off of that. And we can't let them win anymore. So Karen, I appreciate you, sis, for taking time out to just share some of your thoughts and giving us some deeper insight and something to take on to. How can people learn about more of the work? Because you're a poet, you're a thought leader, you're an author of a book. I mean, you got a lot of things going. How can people follow the work that you're doing?
Sure. You can follow me at the OhioRestCollective.com. That is my personal business with my partner and fiance, and we talk about restorative equity through sustainable transformation. And so that really stands on the hinge that we should have access. It is our birthright to be able to rest and to be able to experience joy and to be able to heal. And Absolutely. So we talk about that through equity and all kinds of stuff, but you can go on there, the OhioRestCollective.com, and find all the things that we do. And we're creating spaces that don't ask you to be resilient, but allow you to exist and live and breathe and enjoy being yourself.
There it is. Karen Marie, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for joining us here on The Culture, here on the Black Star Network.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me so much.
Absolutely. Folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come back, we're going to check in with the mayor of Jackson, Mississippi, Mayor Chokwe Lumumba. Stay with us. That conversation is up next here on The Culture on the Black Star Network. We'll be right back.
iPhone 13 on us for every customer. Current, new, everyone. To show the love.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Hi, Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for a Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
How about sushi?
I just had sushi for lunch yesterday.
How about tacos?
Automatic emergency braking, one of 6 advanced safety features standard on every 2022 Chevy Equinox. Find new technology. Find new roads. Chevrolet.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. The first hour, we just had some dynamic conversations talking about everything from March for Our Lives, and then talking about, honoring and celebrating Juneteenth this month that is coming up this weekend, and continuing to celebrate Pride for those of our families that are part of the LGBTQIA plus community. So having those important conversations. And folks, if you missed the first hour, you can definitely check us out on the replay. We would love to get your thoughts about that. I know many people have been checking in. We've been having these discussions for the first hour. Wanted to give you an opportunity just to hear what some of our special guests have been saying. This hour, we wanted to start it off talking about another element, which is, as we have been talking about all last week, which is dealing with taking everything we see nationally and breaking it down to locally, because we know that all politics is local. Change starts locally. And so we've been having in our series of conversations with Black mayors from across the country to share with us things that are happening in their respective cities and how they are moving forward in spite of the national madness that we're seeing. So today we wanted to bring on the mayor of Jackson, Mississippi, Brother Chokwe Lumumba, to talk to us about some of the work that he's doing in the great city of Jackson down in the South. Mr. Mayor, welcome to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. How are you, sir?
Well, Brother Muhammad, it is a pleasure to join you and a pleasure to speak before your listening audience.
Absolutely, absolutely. Mr. Mayor, I remember when you first got into office, everybody said, oh man, a Lumumba is in office again.
Yeah.
Down in Jackson, Mississippi. And I was like, oh boy, I can't wait to have my opportunity to talk to this brother about the things that are happening down in Jackson. Now, for those who may not know, your father was the mayor of Jackson some time ago. Is that correct, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, Bo. Yes, sir, brother. That is correct. My father was elected to office in June of 2013. Unfortunately, he passed away 8 months into office.
May God be pleased with it.
Well, I appreciate that, brother. And I am just grateful to have had the great honor of living with my hero. And so obviously I'm proud of his work as mayor, but more importantly, I'm proud of his life, his body of work throughout his life, fighting for self-determination for our people. And whether I'm mayor, whether, I'm in my previous work as an attorney, in any field that we find ourselves, we have to be a part of a greater work of creating liberated spaces and self-determination for our people worldwide.
Absolutely, absolutely. Mr. Mayor, let's talk about some of these things, and in a moment I'm gonna bring my culture crew back into this conversation. But I wanted to kind of get the ball rolling with you, understanding some of the complexities of being a mayor in modern day America. We've been talking to a number of mayors because as a result of that great conference of mayors that happened in Reno, Nevada. But we're seeing, and I'm seeing personally, and I'm gaining so much from, understanding the role of mayor and, most importantly, Black political leadership in this country. We know that Black political leadership is under fire. We know that there is a huge demand from Black citizens, Black constituents, to make sure that our Black political leadership stays accountable and at the same time do what's right, not in the interest of the election, but to do what's right because it's the right thing to do. And so, talk to us about your approach to being mayor and to being a public servant.
Well, my approach is heavily influenced by the fact that I was raised in community work, engaging with human rights work from a very young age. In fact, my parents made the very wise decision in 1988 that we would move to Jackson, Mississippi, not because we had family members here, not because they had some job opportunity waiting for them, but because my father was here in the early 70s, doing human rights work, doing work to build self-determined communities. And they thought it was important that we return back to Mississippi because there was unfinished business. And so, I approach my work as mayor in the same regard, trying to democratize power, understanding that cities like Jackson resemble cities and communities like ours around the country that have suffered from cycles of humiliation, cycles that see poor performing schools, failing infrastructure, a lack of investment, high crime and high poverty. These are all the cycles that we have seen. And so now, we have to present a new model that reflects the inherent dignity that all people enjoy and should enjoy and deserve. And so that's what we're trying to build. And so when we talk about democratizing power, what that looks like is realizing that as mayor, when I control a budget, that is one of the principal functions of governance. And so a budget is a moral document which should reflect the values of our community. And so we need to bring it to community. We need to allow participatory participation, participatory budgeting. So our community has some say-so in that, that we have people's assemblies where we discuss important issues within our community, not only to inform community as to the things that we see from our position of election, but also to receive information back from the streets and to be held accountable. You always have to be willing to be held accountable to make certain that you're doing the things that people have sent you in office to do. I will just conclude this particular question by saying that at one time, our mission in places like Mississippi was to get leadership that looked like us. Now our mission, as we sit in a state that has more Black elected officials than any other place in the country, now our mission has to be to get leadership that thinks like us, leadership which is centered on the principles that help build and develop our communities, that help generate wealth and not only create self-determined spaces, but democratize power in every way.
So it's basically talking about it's not just about representation, having our seat at the table. Now you're talking about taking public service to a whole new level, because now and I'm sure as you see, Mr. Mayor, we're dealing with systemic issues, ongoing systemic problems. And now we also are dealing with some new challenges right now facing the Black community. How hopeful should Black folks be in this country that Black leadership is going to deliver?
Well, I will say this. I think back to many of the great organizers of throughout history. When we think about people in Mississippi like Fannie Lou Hamer or Medgar Evers, or nationally like Martin and Malcolm, like Marcus Garvey, the namesake of this network, or the Black Star Network. When we think about their great work, they have been tremendous contributors to our history. But I believe the greatest organizer of all time is oppression. And if utilized in the proper way, it could be the catalyst for organization, the catalyst for growth and development, and the ability to educate, motivate, and organize in areas that help uplift our people.
Mm-hmm.
I was in a conversation with a group of mayors some time ago, and the question came about what is leading to the growing inequities in our country and in our world and amongst our communities. And, there were some valuable contributions coming through the room where many of the mayors were talking about issues of discrimination, pay equity gaps, other things like innovation versus workforce. And when the conversation arrived at my chair, I said, from where I sit, I don't see a system that has gone wrong. I think we're attacking this from the wrong premise. I see a system that is operating in the way in which it was always intended to. And if anything, it is overperforming. And so I think that we have to completely revolutionize the way we see electoral politics. I think we need to revolutionize the metrics by which we judge success and failure in our communities. It's not about GDP. It's not about stock market. It's not about all of these factors where they tell us time and time again that the economy is growing and we're making more money than ever before. Well, if the pie is getting larger in my communities, our slice isn't, right? Our slice of that pie is still the same. The need is still the same. And so how do we push through those barriers? And instead of looking at those metrics that don't have a proper reflection of what people are experiencing, how do we look at sustainable development goals? What is the quality of our education in our school systems? What is the access to fresh fruits and vegetables for our people? What is the sustainability and the equity in things like our infrastructure that we battle with each and every day in Jackson? And so that's what we have to push through. We have to know what questions to ask. We have to be at the table continuously. And when I say we have to be at the table, I'm not just talking about the elected officials that we put in the office. I'm talking about the community itself has to remain engaged and understand that it is our collective genius that will ultimately win at the end of the day.
Awesome. I want to bring in my culture crew, Jules P, B Fly, into this conversation as we continue the discussion with Mayor Chokwe Lumumba, the mayor of Jackson, Mississippi. And before we get to them, I want to take Keena, let's post a couple of comments because folks are checking in, sharing their thoughts to what Mr. Mayor has already said. Turner family checked in. Turner family, good to hear from you. You posted, poverty and crime go hand in hand, but people do not want to talk about the facts. Not everyone will be able to have a job. It's not mathematically possible. Mr. Mayor, is it not mathematically possible? I mean, yes, poverty and crime go hand in hand. We already see those links. We know those conditions. But to get people to a productive place, is that not possible?
Yeah. Well, I'll say that both can be true at the same time. So first and foremost, I think that is a proper analysis that wherever you find high poverty, you traditionally find high crime. And the ancillary effects of poverty and all of the lack that exists in those spaces. And when we talk about communities that have lower rates of violence, we don't normally associate, even though it is true, that where you have the higher average household income, you traditionally see lower rates of violence within those communities. But I think that we can build a new notion of how we begin to rescue ourselves. As the mayor of a city that is 85% Black, I am unapologetically supportive of Black business. I tell people that, if 85% of your population is left-handed, then you need some left-handed jobs, right? We have to understand that the equation is a little deeper than that when we look at the fact that we exist in a capitalist society. A capitalist society is about the exploitation of markets, right? We live in a country or we live in a world of abundance, but we operate from a place of scarcity because it is not economically advantageous to feed everybody, even though we have enough food to feed every family for, years and years to come, each and every day. But we as a country make the strategic decision that it is not profitable to do that, right? And so there are decisions that are made. But when I talk about rescuing ourselves, what we're lifting up in this dignity economy notion in Jackson is how we create and incubate cooperative enterprise, cooperative economics. So how communities can start rescuing themselves, realizing that where you see gaps, you can not only fill those gaps with worker-owned cooperatives, but it's also a means that people can not only decide how their labor, but what the fruits of their labor will be. And it doesn't have to represent a substitution of all of the private development that you see within community, but it allows you to leverage your position. No longer just saying bring jobs to the businesses, the large corporate structures that we're used to. We have good people and they're willing to work. It's saying that, listen, if you don't come, we'll fill these gaps ourselves, borrowing on the legacy and the knowledge of people like Fannie Lou Hamer, who organized poor Black Mississippi farmers in the Mississippi Delta. And so we can borrow from that genius and build on it and create new opportunities and show that we are the cavalry that we've been waiting on.
We are the cavalry. B Fly, what's your question for Mr. Mayor?
Peace, Mayor Lumumba. Welcome.
Peace, sister.
Great talking to you. Yeah, I'm great. So listen, I'm realizing that we both are in historic Chitlin circuit cities. Listen, I'm a musician. I'm a performing musician. All right. And so when it comes to regenerating the Black wealth that is vast and that is ready in our entertainment sector, how is Mississippi, how is Jackson pouring into the musicians of Jackson who are a part of the economy, and historically Jackson has always been one of like a blues capital. So who are your favorite Jackson, Mississippi artists musically right now? And what is Jackson doing to stimulate and to elevate the music community?
Well, we've been very intentional and have even gone after several philanthropic dollars that have helped to lift up the music specifically, but the cultural scene of our city to support our artists, not only because we want to see their personal growth and development, but when we're trying to change culture, when we're trying to elevate the ideas and the concepts that we're trying to promote here in the city, we know that we not only have to do that in the space of the mayor's office, but we have to sing and paint and in the culinary aspect, push towards revolution or change in every regard. And so we have many great artists and gifted people that hail from Jackson, Mississippi. In fact, Mississippi, we call ourselves the birthplace of music. We've not only been influential in terms of blues, and jazz. We've had impact, in so many ways. I think about the history of people like Bobby Rush, Grammy award-winning Bobby Rush, a good friend of mine, who has impacted the world of blues in so many regards. I think about people like Dear Silas, a young brother whose music is not only uplifting, but his wordplay and his creativity, is to be admired. He's a good friend of mine, and even stretching beyond Jackson. And I can name several other artists and gifted comedians like Rita Brent, who's from Jackson and is making her imprint nationally. But throughout the state, I think about people like Big Crit, who, I've been on for many years. And so, I tell people that here in Mississippi, it's fertile ground. It's fertile ground in terms of, the creativity. It's something in the soil here. That rises and lifts up all of these geniuses in creative ways. We punch above our weight when it comes to literary geniuses, not only the Margaret Walker Alexanders of the world, but Richard Wright, right? But you also have present day people like Kiersey Lehman and Angie Thomas, who wrote The Hate U Give. And so this is a place that, like I said, punches is above its weight in terms of all of the creative aspects that our world can be influenced.
Absolutely. I want to go to Ariel. Let's bring up some comments because folks are checking in as we're talking to Mayor Chokwe Lumumba, the mayor of the great city of Jackson, Mississippi. Mike V checked in. Mike, always good to hear from you, bro. You said in Mississippi, 1 in 3 Black men have access to broadband internet, and 1 in 3 Black men can legally vote. How does the mayor plan to address Black male disenfranchisement in this digital society? Mr. Mayor, ain't that the truth?
Yeah. So with respect to, the digital divide and the lack of resources, long before COVID, we understood and knew that we had to make up ground. And so I will address both questions, but it was kind of wrapped into a number of things there. So with respect to the digital divide and access to those resources, what we did was we realized the city of Jackson actually owns the dark fiber in the ground. This was placed in the ground in an investment shortly after Katrina. But the city has never profited from it or never taken advantage of this resource. And so we did, what we did was we reached an agreement with a company called Cogent, which is a long haul provider of internet, so that we could obtain what is called an autonomous systems number. What that means is that the city of Jackson is positioning ourselves to no longer just be a purchaser of internet, but a provider of internet, and how we can do so equitably to deliver internet access throughout our city in every regard to the spaces that don't have it. I think that, you know, the circumstances of the last 2 years being in a global pandemic have really heightened and illuminated, you know, this challenge, and that it's no longer a convenience to have access to internet. It is a necessity in every regard, and so we have to lift that up. My work has been continuous and ongoing about dealing with the disenfranchisement of Black men and Black women, not only through the promotion of how we restore voting rights to Black men and women, pushing the limits of the law as mayor and advocating for legislative change. It's not directly within my sphere of influence, you know, to change many of those laws that charge our brothers and sisters with so many offenses that take away their voting rights. But that was my work and has always been my work, even in my previous practice of law here. And so I'm committed to that in every regard. I'm proud that my sister works with electoral justice projects, not only here in Jackson, Mississippi, but across the country. The people who work with Black Votes Matters, Cliff, and you know, all of my brothers and sisters there, I'm closely connected with that work.
Absolutely. Mr. Mayor, if we can, we just want to take about 10 more minutes of your time, because folks have many more questions, but we got to take a quick pause. When we come back, more conversation with Mayor Chokwe Lumumba, the great mayor of Jackson, Mississippi. We got a culture crew, folks. Ilana, I got you. Valerie, I see you. McCall, I got you. We're going to get all your questions and your thoughts in, and let's continue to have the conversation about Black political leadership in this day and time. Stay with us, folks. That conversation and more is coming up for the final 30 of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. We'll be right back.
Love our new Alexa.
It's a Buick.
Yeah, Alexa.
Buick.
Alexa.
It's a Buick.
It's an Alexa. It's a Buick. It's an Alexa. Coach, that's a Buick. That's an Alexa.
The Buick Enclave with available Alexa built in.
Pull up a chair. Take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Verizon just gave us all a brand new iPhone 13.
We've been customers for years. I thought new phones were for new customers. We got iPhone 13s too, switched to Verizon 2 minutes ago.
Ours were busted, and we still got a shiny new one.
Check it out. So wait, everybody gets the same great deal.
I think that's the point.
iPhone 13 on us for every customer. Current, new, everyone. On any unlimited plan, starting at just $35. All on the network more people rely on.
We welcome you to the launch of the Mass Poor People's Low Wage Assembly and Moral March on Washington, D.C., June 18, 2022.
We are a new, unsettling force, and we are powerful. New, unsettling force, and we are here.
We're rising up to demonstrate the compelling power that we, poor and low-income people, have to reconstruct society from the bottom up.
And we need to do it with the loudest voices possible, the biggest actions possible.
Because we know that there is no scarcity in this land. The only scarcity is the moral will to do what's right.
Hold on, just a little while longer.
We are those with sub-minimum wage jobs who can't afford sky-high rent.
people with disabilities are the fastest growing minority group.
It's crazy to me that in 2021, it's still legal for workplaces to pay a sub-minimum wage to people with disabilities.
There are still so much trial and tribulations that we go through as Indigenous people. We can't get a decent wage to sustain ourselves, nor can we get adequate housing.
Veterans across this nation say enough is enough. We can't pat essential workers on the back on one day and then cut their health care the next day.
Health is a political choice.
What more do I need to do to prove that my voice is just as valuable as anyone else's?
There are still forces in denial that would try to slow walk our transition to a clean economy and a just future for us all.
We have an immoral system run by immoral people.
But together we walk and we fight.
It's time for a change. Reconstruyamos esta gran nación.
See, we are people of resilience as we fight these interlocking injustices together.
When we work together, mobilize together, and rise together, we become a voice for the voiceless, and we become an agent of change in a time where great change is needed.
We need the third Reconstruction to ensure that deaf people, people with disabilities, and all people can have the right to live and to thrive.
We know what they are doing, but the question is, what are we going to do? Reconstruction begins when we change our mentality and say it's time for you to get your foot off of my neck.
Who produces commercials? Go.
Do you believe that of today?
How about sushi? I just had sushi for lunch yesterday. How about tacos?
Automatic emergency braking, one of 6 advanced safety features standard on every 2022 Chevy Equinox. Find new technology. Find new roads. Chevrolet.
Folks, welcome back to the show. We have been having our conversation with Mayor Chokwe Lumumba, who serves as mayor of the city of Jackson, Mississippi. We've been talking to Mr. Mayor about the state of Jackson, Mississippi, and some of the things that he's working on as we've been looking at Black political leadership in this country. We're also joined by our culture crew, Mr. Jules P. and B. Fly as well. And we want to hear more from you as we got questions that are going to be posed to the mayor about what he plans to do with various challenges and some of the big triumphs that he has had in Jackson, Mississippi. Mr. Mayor, again, we thank you for taking the time out your busy schedule to be with us this afternoon. Mr. Mayor, yes, sir. Mr. Mayor, one of our loyal watchers, Lana, she checked and she said, I want the mayor to speak on the JSU impact, considering the momentum Coach Prime is bringing to JSU. How do we use that leverage to change the Jackson community to one of Black pride versus crime?
Well, I think that we have to be in control of our narrative. I think it's always a danger to be to have a single narrative about who your community is and what is the how things are reflected throughout your community. And so we're very proud of Jackson State. We're very proud of the work that Coach Prime and his entire team is doing. And when I say his team, I'm talking about athletic director and friend of mine, Ashley Robinson, on down. I think that the impact that it has, not only through economic development, not only through lifting up the power that our young Black athletes have, not only here in Jackson, but nationwide, is an important story to tell. It not only has the ability and has already brought into fruition lifting up several components of our city, but it also tells the story of our young people who are going into, their athletic endeavors at various schools, that they can choose HBCUs, right? They can choose our institutions, that the spotlight and attention can still be, can be driven to them and their aspirations that reach beyond their collegiate careers can still be promoted and lifted up. And so, it's a lot of excitement around the city. The games are packed. We are competing literally. Our experience was on the same weekend that Mississippi State played the University of Alabama. Jackson State played Alabama State, and there were more people in Jackson, Mississippi, that were at the Jackson State Alabama State game than at the SEC game that was in Starkville, Mississippi. And the way that our people like to celebrate, we have just as many people in the stadium or outside of the stadium as we do inside the stadium. And so it gives a sense of place to our city. It's not only about football, it's not only about the band, but it's about the culture and the engagement that is unique to spaces like this and to our communities. And it's a beautiful love fest in all regards. It's a unity fest. And so we're happy about it. We want to build on it. And we also, we love to see it at other institutions. We're not selfish about that. We just want to be able to generate, like I said, this narrative that our young gifted athletes can stay at the institutions that were created to not only support them, but lift up the ideas and concepts that ultimately lift up our communities.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, Jules. I know that's also something that you were interested in. Any questions around that issue for you, brother?
That's my question, pretty much word for word. So my question was basically about the impact that Coach Prime has brought with focusing the spotlight on Jackson as far as the city, and then the HBCU Jackson State, what impact that's had for Jackson, Mississippi.
Yeah, as I said, it's had an immense impact. Jackson State games routinely are the highest revenue producing years each and every year. And so in a city that has dealt with, disinvestment, in a city that is starved to get the proper resources allocated through the state, anytime that we can, identify how we put our talents front and center and generate revenue that helps support the goals that we have, building up the infrastructure, building up the things that our people need. It's a beautiful thing. And so, we're truly excited about it. And I want to lift up some names that people don't hear. People like my friend, and of course, because I'm having this conversation, I'm losing it, but Cortez Bryant, who's not only Lil Wayne's manager, not only Drake's manager, but he's a Jackson State, he's a JSU grad. And so Cortez, through his relationships, was one of the first people to make the connection and sit down with me and talk about the idea of Deion coming to Jackson. I talked about our ADA, Ashley Robinson, who's a high school friend of mine, doing amazing work. And so I think that their vision and their ideas on this are greater than just having a winning football team in the SWAC. Their ideas are really demonstrating to these young athletes that they can be change agents and that they can produce and introduce something totally different than what we've seen in quite some time.
Absolutely. Mr. Mayor, let's talk a little bit about your take around this issue of gun violence. That's another big conversation that's happened, of course, across the country in light of the Uvalde shooting and the one in Buffalo. You joined a number of current and former mayors across the country to not just honor those Americans who were shot and killed, but you're looking to push the effort around common sense gun reform. You stand with a nonprofit called Mayors Against Illegal Guns by declaring June 3rd, 2022 National Gun Violence Awareness Day. What's the best type of reform that we need to have around gun control or gun violence in this country?
Well, I think that it requires a multifaceted approach. And let me begin by saying this. My support of gun, reform or gun law reform is done so with a full circle view. I'm a person who believes not only in self-determination, but I believe in self-defense. I am a proud gun owner. So I'm not against guns. I know that historically, when we look at the legacy and work of institutions like the Black Panther organization, that we cannot ignore what gun ownership means primarily to the safety of our communities. But what we are seeing time and time again is guns fall in the hands of the limited judgment of youth, right? Guns fall in the hands of people who, don't have the mental capacity for one reason or another, and creating violent occurrences within our communities. And I think just as, I enjoy, we come to love our cars, right? But we don't love our cars without understanding that we need a license, right? That we had to take a test to get it, right? That we have to make sure that certain things are adhered to in terms of our operation of those vehicles. And so I don't think that it has to be this reductive analysis of, that in order to feel that people have a right to bear arms, that there can't be common sense regulation that keeps our community safer. And so I think that, things like open carry in Mississippi are problematic, where, I knew at the start of the pandemic and even pushed the limits, looking into the state law of outlawing or restricting open carry in the middle of the pandemic. I was then sued by the state. I was sued by a number of people who did not live in Jackson, nor were concerned with what the impact would be in Jackson for people to be in the midst of the trauma of a pandemic, in the midst of a trauma of domestic circumstances, and at the same time brandishing weapons the entire time. And the result has been as catastrophic as I predicted it to be. And so I think that we have to center on a balanced discussion in our communities and nationally over how we balance not only our desire and need to protect ourselves and maintain lawful ownership, but also how we eliminate those threats that I just spoke of.
Absolutely. And I read that about the unfortunate passing of some young people in your city, Mr. Mayor. If I'm, a 12-year-old was shot, and I believe a 5-year-old were shot as well. And a lot of it is at the hands of young people.
Absolutely. And that is the sharpest increase in gun violence has been amongst our youngest residents. Somewhere between the age of 13 to 17 years old. As we have taken young people out of the institutions in which they thrive, we have left them with little instruction as to what they do or little guidance in any way. And so, I believe that every block is going to be organized by somebody. It's either going to be organized by a positive force or a negative force. And so we have to be intentional around, being that force that influences them. And this issue, while I think that common sense regulation is needed, I'm not making it, I'm not painting a broad stroke and saying that alone is going to create the safer condition. We have to invest time with young people and in communities that, reduce the trauma that we see. And so we have to tackle this thing from a comprehensive view. And so not only am I supportive of common sense gun regulation, but I also am supportive of violence interruption programming, credible messenger programming. We are looking, communities time and time again are looking to implement things like curfews. I think a curfew without the proper, institutions to support how you deal with, children that are in a sense walking or traveling aimlessly through your city, is that you have to have things like curfew centers. That when young people come in there, you have someone who's there to direct them, support them, identify what the gaps in their lives are, so that we can redirect them. Whether we're talking about gun violence or issues of quote unquote delinquency amongst young people. It reminds me of the words of my father. A young brother stopped me at the barbershop, and he said, while there was a whole bunch of discussion at that time about, criminalizing young brothers for having their pants sagging at that time, which I thought was a horrible idea. My father told him, he said, young brother, I'm not going to tell you to pick up your pants, lift your pants. He said, I'm going to lift up your mind. And if I lift up your mind, you'll lift up your pants. And so we have to, in every way, lift up the minds of our young people so that we give them the direction that they're so desperately deserving. I believe that young people yearn for discipline in their lives. And we are often failing to adhere to what they're yearning for, whether they know it or not.
Yep, absolutely. Mr. Mayor, real final question. We got about 30 seconds. Patricia, one of our loyal watchers, Patricia Johnson, checked in. She said in our YouTube chat, Mr. Mayor, Father, this is what we have been talking about. Pass the knowledge to your offspring. Pass the knowledge. The conversation we're having right now has evolved. God is good. Your loving father was mayor. Talking about the great work your dad did. And then another one of our watchers, Mr. Mayor, brought it up about making sure that young people get involved in law, like you've gone down that path of being an attorney. If you can, in about 30 seconds, just share with us, that path, that journey that you took and how you got to the place that you got to at this point.
Well, first and foremost, I want to say, Asante, thank you for the recognition of my father and from the sister. And what I will say is that, I so admired the work that my father did, that I wanted to be impactful on my community as well. I think often when we teach our young children to be, doctors or lawyers, we look at the monetary benefits of it, as opposed to looking at the contributions that they can make to our communities. And so, I would just say that I've held near and dear the words of Dr. Frantz Fanon, who was a philosopher. He was an author. He was a revolutionary, and he wrote a book called Wretched of the Earth. And in Wretched of the Earth, what he said was, each generation must discover its mission, fulfill it, or betray it. And so I'm grateful that my parents had the wisdom to understand that they not only needed to give me food, water, and shelter, but they needed to give me a sense of community and view the community as a family. And so we need to not only promote and encourage the skill sets of our young people, but promote it for the right purposes. And so I thank the sister and whether they're lawyers, whether they're engineers, whether they're in any field of support to our communities, we need to teach them to do it in a way that is giving back to their people.
There it is right there. Mayor Chokwe Lumumba, thank you so much, Mr. Mayor, for your time and the extra time you spent with us here on the show. We truly appreciate it. And keep up the great work. And Mr. Mayor, you're making it sound like I got to make a trip down to Jackson sometime soon, sir.
That was my point, too.
Y'all got to come and be a part of this movement. Mississippi is where the greatest concentration of your people are. So y'all, I'm waiting on y'all. Y'all have an invitation.
Absolutely. Mr. Mayor, we appreciate you and thank you so much for checking in and being a part of the conversation here on The Culture on the Black Star Network, sir.
All right. Free to land. Y'all take it easy.
You too, brother. Folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come back, Trends, Posts, and Doing the Most. Stay with us. It's The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
We're all impacted by the culture, whether we know it or not. From politics to music and entertainment, it's a huge part of our lives, and we're going to talk about it every day right here on The Culture with me, Farajii Muhammad, only on the Black Star Network. All right, folks, it's time for Trends Posting Doing the Most. Let me bring in my culture crew here first and foremost. Let me first if you, first and foremost, we just finished talking to the mayor. Great conversation that we had. These jokers here. Let me just tell y'all behind the scenes very quickly. You know, we talking, and so B-Fly's like, yo, we should do a field trip down in there. Down to Jackson, Mississippi. Because Jules talking about, I was going to ask the mayor what restaurants to go. Man, no.
Listen, there are things I need to
I was
see.
going to ask the mayor what restaurants to go to down in Jackson. I'm trying to go down there.
Yo, we need a party bus.
Right, like. And then B said, can we get a party bus and do a Chitlin circuit crawl? Have a white nonprofit pay for it. First thing, I ain't doing nothing with the word chitlin in it. That's just not my flavor right there.
See, it's the historical context. You can't run from your roots. You can't run from your roots.
I can.
Farajii.
Yes,
no,
you
can't.
Right,
you just gotta spell it different. You just gotta spell it different.
I know y'all said, you just told me I can't run from my roots. You want me to accept chitlin circuit?
Listen, I'm just saying.
Just saying the word
circuit,
is offensive
it represents
to my
art.
my religion.
But it represents art and entertainment of blackness in a safe way, and the economy, and come through. We get the green book, and we go.
Look, man, you can't.
I'm not dealing with you all the time.
I'm not dealing with you right now. Look, let me just tell you.
Y'all ready?
No, I'm not doing it. This Shannon, I'm not dealing with you either right now with your breakdown of the word chitterlings. All right, so look, let me just show y'all which. All right, first and foremost, let me just say this. We're going to have a segment about the January 6th committee because they had their hearing today, but their hearing kicked off at 10 o'clock this morning. So this is what I'm saying. What I'm advise you to do: go back to the replay here on Black Star Network and watch the hearing for Black Star here on Black Star. And then tomorrow we're going to have a fuller conversation about debunking the myth of the big lie. We're going to have that discussion tomorrow. So if you didn't see the hearing because it aired at 10 o'clock this morning, you were probably at work out and about doing your thing. Make sure y'all go back to the replay on Black Star. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about it. All right, real quick. Here's the big thing. One is Sha'Carri Richardson. Keenan, Ariel, let's pull up Sha'Carri Richardson. Guess what she did, y'all? Boom!
Smoked them.
New outfit.
Smoked them.
She's back, baby.
Smoked them. You watched it? She smoked them girls.
She smoked them.
She smoked them.
Sha'Carri
that's
Richardson
my girl.
won.
I love her.
I don't know. Wait a minute. I feel bad now for pumping this up because, like, because I'm like,
y'all been wrong to Sha'Carri.
I mean, people been going hard on Sha'Carri.
Y'all been wrong. Y'all owe her apologies.
She wins the women's 200 meter at the NYC Grand Prix, and it was a big win for Sha'Carri Richardson. She's been hitting it. She's been coming in last and doing all types of stuff, not qualifying, So very quickly, Sha'Carri gets a win in. You think this is going to be the beginning of another chapter of her life? Like she's going to get back into that winner's circle?
No, but I am excited to see her new wardrobe. No. Sorry. No, but I want to see more from Sha'Carri. Like I'm ready to see like her talk show. I'm ready to like go into her closet. I'm ready to like see who does her hair and what happens when like She's getting her hair done. I'm ready to see like her lace front technique. You know what I'm saying? Like I want to go in depth with like the woman inside Sha'Carri. You feels me? Yeah. Right. That's what I want. That's what I want to know now. I want more information that has nothing to do with track and field.
So you don't even want to, you passed her career. You already looking at beyond it.
Done with that. I'm done with it. I'm done with it, but I do want more. You understand? Like, I feel like she's a rapper at the end of the day. And so, like, there should be a mixtape that's coming out. Like, we should have a whole 360 deal right now with Sha'Carri. So, I'm ready for all of it. I'm ready for the leggings. I'm ready for the bodysuits. Right. I'm ready for the wig collection. Yeah. I'm ready for the nails. You feels me? Like, I just want now to be a part of her reality world because I'm sure it's amazing.
Let me just tell y'all something. You said reality world. Why did my Real Brooklyn checked in and said Sha'Carri wears like 10 pounds of fake nails and makeup? Maybe that's why she wasn't winning.
But she got to get her weight up.
So she run with all of it.
I'm just saying, like, I love it. I'm here for Sha'Carri and all of her Black woman contradictions. Come through. As long as she wins like 1 in 5, then
that's
then
terrible.
She'll still be.
But it's still relevant. B.
You listen. You know what I'm here for.
Winning 1 in 5.
You know what I'm here for. Okay. I'm here.
Look, B
parts of Sha'Carri.
B wants to direct Sha'Carri Richardson biopic. She already in the biopic phase of her career.
Listen, I feel she's a full 360 deal. Let's go, Jules. Bring me Sha'Carri. I can do things with her.
Minor setback, major comeback. She about to start smoking them again. I'm all for it.
Literally.
You think she stopped smoking?
You picked up what I put down, didn't you? You picked up what I put down.
He ain't ready. He ain't know.
You got it? Okay. All right. Just want to make sure you caught it. Okay. All right.
I got it, Jules. I got you.
Come on, Jules. You think she's going to have like a comeback tour?
Because I feel like one thing you can't take away is talent. So regardless of all the off the field everything, she came in last, but I mean again, like who doesn't, like everybody has a minor lapse. I feel like with training you get right back to where you can't take away speed. That's one thing you can't take away from a person. But it's all about your training to get to that meet.
No, technically, you can slow down. No, bro.
I mean, later in life, yeah, I get it. But what I'm saying is as far as if you have the speed in your prime currently and you're working towards that goal, that's something that shows your work ethic is what shows by you finishing in those second, third, and fourth or last places. So once you get back to focusing on the goal of getting to the Olympics, I'm all full support for it. You got another 3 years. I got full support behind her.
Listen, I want to see her on Real Housewives. I want Sha'Carri on Real Housewives. Hold on.
Well, look, let me say this that I think that at this point, if she can get this, all it takes is one win sometimes. You know what I mean? You got to get back into it. You get one win. You get that one win, you got the momentum, you know what it takes to win. Boom, stay on that regiment, and then you're gonna start collecting the medals. That's all it takes. That's all it takes, man.
Tiger Woods, prime example. I mean, all them years that he went without qualifying and winning, and then he finally won one a year ago, and that put him right back into the forefront again. So it's all like
right back on time.
Right. All right, so here's the other thing. If everybody did not know, did you know that there's a Black woman that will be, if this deal goes through, will become part owner of the Denver Broncos? Her name is Melody Hobson. She is an investor, and she's set to become the first Black woman to have an ownership stake in an NFL team. Check this out, y'all. I want you to pull up Keenan and Ariel, pull up the Essence story around Melody Hobson. She is the co-CEO of Ariel Investments, and she currently is working with the family of Sam Walton. And if y'all don't know, Sam Walton is the guy that started Walmart and Sam's Club. Well, the heir of the Walmart empire is Rob Walton. He's planning to buy the Denver Broncos for Jules, check this out, $4.65 billion.
I saw.
$4.65 billion. Check this out, though. Mr. Walton put it out there that this sister here, Melody Hobson, is going to be a part of this ownership group. She will become a minority owner, and she's 53 years old. And Mr. Walton says that beyond her role at Ariel, Melody is an influential leader in corporate and civic organizations across the country. She serves as chair of the board of Starbucks Corporation and also a director of JP Morgan Chase. And he also said that after the this also came after the Broncos announced that they were up for sale in February. And so the team's ownership is currently pending. So it will include two women, Carrie Walton Penner and Melody Hobson. And then it will also include some guys into this, Mr. Rob Walton. But do y'all know who her husband is? Y'all know who her husband is? Because I was trying to figure it out, B and Jules. Like, why this sister? And I'm not saying her husband was the reason.
Yes, stop. But
her husband is the man that created Star Wars, Mr. George Lucas.
I saw that.
Now, are they still married, though?
Yes.
They are still married?
They got a daughter. They live in California.
Yes, Lord.
That's George Lucas's wife.
Yes, Lord.
I saw that.
Yes,
I was following that story 2 days ago when they released this. I was following that. That's major. That's
big, right? That's real big. So if that deal goes through, she'd be the first black woman.
First one.
Now we ain't see this.
Right
I don't think that we had no. And I'm bringing it up because if the deal goes through, y'all can't say. I mean, Essence and a couple of publications, USA Today. But I'm saying I don't know if black media really have seen this, and I don't know if this is depending on who you are. You might see this not as a win for black women or what. Mocha Mima, I see you. Hey, Mocha, you said they got that long bread.
Listen, she did not.
Long bread.
Listen,
there we go. There it is. There it is.
She would be the technically second minority owner because Shad Khan of the Jaguars is technically a minority owner.
Right, but she's first black woman.
Black woman. Yep, she'd be the first black woman.
Long.
Also,
I love it.
But real quick, Farajii, I was celebrating. Before we get out of there, while we're celebrating black women, can we say shouts out to Jennifer Hudson for becoming an EGOT?
EGOT.
Yeah, shout out to Jennifer Hudson.
Hey, Jules, tell us what an EGOT is.
Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, Tony.
She got four of them joints.
Got hit all four categories. Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, Tony.
Hey, B, real quick. I know we wrapping up. As an artist to hit all four to become an EGOT, how major is that?
Listen, she's 40. Like, it's massive. It's massive, you know? And so, but this is a part of the Jennifer Hudson effect. You know what I'm saying? Like, she defies odds. She literally, you know what I'm saying? Like, she wages war with Beyonce and wins. The people, the enemy literally tries to take her down and slaughters her whole family. Jennifer Hudson's relationship with the Most High is one for the books, like straight up, you know. So way to go, Jennifer. Like, you know, I don't know who you are in the real world.
I'm telling you, that's a great point. That's a great
like
point.
It's so real, you know. Like, this is either a very much prayed up woman or she has sacrificed her whole soul to the Illuminati. Whichever one, you know, way to go, blackness for the win.
Some people would say the latter.
Listen,
I'm like, not the Illuminati. Ain't no black woman ever gonna be an EGOT in 2022.
Again, shout out to Melody Hobson and shout out to Jennifer Hudson. I love some black women. I love black women.
Yes.
I love it.
Hey, forensic said, forensic accountant said she stayed away from cocaine. Damn, bro, that's a low bar.
It's real.
Yeah, that's real. I mean, I guess.
I mean, forensic.
Forensic is the name, I guess.
I mean, I think that if you stay away from drugs in general, some good things may come into your life.
He said specifically cocaine.
Specifically cocaine.
I'm sorry. I need to see this. Specifically.
Wow. That's specifically cocaine,
Okay.
not heroin. If you're doing heroin, you're pretty successful. Cocaine take you down.
Listen. When you're black, there's a different black code of conduct, clearly. Okay.
Hey, Chappelle Show, cocaine is a hell of a drug, baby.
Oh my gosh. All right, y'all. I'm done. I am done with y'all. I appreciate y'all, man. B Fly. Co-founder of Blackwater Production House. My man, Jules P, Mr. Jules P, who is an artist and an activist and an all-around good brother. Appreciate y'all. Thank y'all so much for being so good for the culture today. Yo.
Shout out to baby girl for graduating high school. She graduated Western this weekend, had a prom Thursday. Shout out to baby girl graduating high school.
Yay! Shout out baby girl.
There we go. Give it a good shout out. All right, folks. I'll see you, God willing, next week, folks. Let me tell you something. Exactly, B. Exactly. All right, folks. That's going to do it for me. It is our time. I want to thank all of my fantastic guests. Ruquan Brown, Mayor Chokwe Lumumba, and Karen Marie. Thank you for being a part of the conversation. And most importantly, thank you for tuning in. Folks, this is why we have this. This is what we do. Make sure y'all support Black Star Network at blackstarnetwork.com. Support us. We are looking for your continued support for Black-owned, Black media, unapologetic, unfiltered media. We want your support. Financial support is absolutely encouraged, but even if you can't give us the dollars, you can certainly give us your attention. Yep, we pay. You pay an attention. That's how it is. So just let your family and friends know that Black Star Network is on, that the culture is moving forward. We got so many great shows that have come out. Of course, you know it. And just continue to support us as you have been doing and letting your friends and family know that this is the place to get that news about Black folks that you won't get anywhere else. So that's all can be found at blackstarnetwork.com. I want to thank my fantastic team, Joel, Shannon, Ariel, King Keenan. Thank you. And again, we want to thank you for tuning in. Stay tuned. 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time is my big brother Roland Martin Unfiltered. As always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong. Stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we'll talk tomorrow for another exciting edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Peace.
iPhone 13 on us for every customer. Current, new, everyone. To show the love.
How about sushi?
I just had sushi for lunch yesterday.
How about tacos?
Automatic emergency braking, one of 6 advanced safety features standard on every 2022 Chevy Equinox. Find new technology. Find new roads. Chevrolet.